Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we have Scott Wells here with the conversion formula, who's going to talk all about increasing occupancy within your RAL home, generating leads, and he'll also be introducing two new products recently designed and developed by Conversion Formula to simplify and automate RAL home ownership. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Scott. He's got a great presentation for you guys. Scott, how are you tonight?
Excellent, excellent. Glad to be here. Thankful for everyone who showed up, and let's roll.
Awesome.
All right, what's happening, everyone? So we're going to get started here. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know you've got a lot of other things that you could possibly be doing, so I'm excited to share a bunch of different things with you, mainly education. But as Tess said, we've created two new products and services that I'm excited to share with you too. But mainly, this webinar is based on 8+ years of marketing in the senior living space, mainly with big box communities, but the last 2 years have been a heavy focus of RALs. And if you've heard me speak before, then this will be a little bit different, at least to a degree. So our overall framework, the resident value journey, isn't going to change anytime soon. That's kind of how we structure everything. But the tactics and what's working right now is always evolving and always manifesting into new tactics and new strategies that we bring to you guys. So we've been testing these strategies and tactics out, and that's really what we're going to do tonight, is the culmination of a ton of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of success along the way. And our mission is to provide you that knowledge so that you can take your marketing to the next level. And so, like I said, I'll have an offer for you at the end of this with our new products and services, and then it's going to be up to you what you do with that. So my name is Scott R. Wells. Yes, I throw the R in there because the Scott Wells that everyone can look online is a magician. So I had to throw the R in there. That's the only reason the R is in there. So that's kind of why we do that. But we're going to discuss today how to increase occupancy and free your community from third-party leads. Now listen, this is not to say that third-party leads can't be useful and can't be used to supplement, but we also want to discuss the pitfalls of being completely reliant on third-party leads. This webinar is about taking radical responsibility for your investment, for your business, and for your community. It's about how you can create a beautiful community that provides amazing results for your residents and for everyone involved, for your staff members, for the whole business, and then how you communicate that to your target market. So before we get into that, though, we need to understand why so many people struggle in this industry. So if you've been struggling with marketing your community, this is probably why. So this was a quote that was actually ironically said to me 2 times by 2 of my mentors, and it literally shook my world. It shook my business world. My business was booming and things seemed great, but it was a house of cards. I was relying on referrals for all of my business. I was a marketer who wasn't marketing. I was not following my own advice, and that absolutely needed to change. So I became ruthlessly committed to changing my own business. And this is the same mentality that we've brought to the senior living industry, an industry that, quite frankly, is really far behind when it comes to the game of sales and marketing. And if you're struggling with marketing your community right now, this is probably why. The first problem is that begins this whole cascading effect of challenges for you is that you lack an overall strategy or operating system for marketing your community, for your business. The crazy thing that I've noticed in this industry is that most homeowners have an operating system for things like care, for things like real estate acquisition, for things like getting financing. But when it comes to marketing, it becomes an afterthought. And not having an operating system for marketing your community makes you, essentially a wandering generality when you really need to be a meaningful specific and get laser targeted in on your goals. And the challenge is that creating a system without an operating system means that you have no framework for choosing your strategy. And you end up trying different things with no well thought out plan. This leads to the second problem. When a prospective resident or their family member, their spouse, whoever, does a search online, you aren't found. you're invisible. They're looking for your services, they're looking for your home, but you're invisible. You're not even getting in the game, and you're stuck on the sidelines hoping and waiting. See, you've been taught, trained, and educated to get out in the community, network with hospitals, hospices, rehab facilities, referral agents, et cetera, et cetera. And some of you do a really good job at this, but it rarely provides the amount of leads and referrals that allows you to accomplish the specific goals that you have for your community, but also for expanding and getting into more communities. So for your overall business. Some of you don't even do that. You're simply sitting back and waiting, hoping that, if you build it, they will come, thinking that leads will miraculously begin filing in and everything is going to be just fine. The reality, though, is that this game is full of competition, full of competitors who are out there marketing and spending a ton of money to attract those leads. You're competing with the 800-pound gorillas who dominate paid media and organic search and spend massive amounts of money, with the end game being you are solely reliant on them. And this strategy has worked for the most part, right? These companies are really successful. Despite some of their business practices, they are extremely successful. And so you're also competing with big box communities who don't necessarily market efficiently, but they certainly are spending a lot of money and make it even more challenging for you. Then you're competing with other RALs in your city or town, right? And listen, the competition isn't going away. In fact, it's going to get even more crowded in the coming years for obvious reasons. Probably the same reason that you all got into this space. The age wave is coming and it'll bring all kinds of sharks into this ocean. So not being found when your target market, the people who are perfect fits for your community, are actively looking online, it's a huge problem. And that leads to the third challenge that you run into. You don't generate any of your own leads. So most of the communities I speak with generate a few leads a year. Everything else is a referral. Think about that for a second. Think about how much power you are giving away and how much you're risking with this strategy. How much control of your business and your investment are you allowing everyone else to have? How much are you giving away? I really want you to think about that and how it plays out. When you don't generate any of your own leads and you rely on third parties, here's what typically happens. A new lead is sent out to you and everyone else in your geographic area. So what happens next? Well, it becomes a feeding frenzy on that lead. Okay, we've all experienced this. They're pounded with phone calls and everyone trying to get them to come in for a tour. It's kind of like when I made the mistake one time to put all my information and my phone number in for an insurance quote. And the next thing I know, I wanted to throw my phone away and change my phone number because I was so annoyed with all of them. I just wanted it to stop. And the real problem is when that happens, when you're all competing for a lead, now you become a commodity. Think about that. You're a commodity now. It doesn't mean you're actually a commodity, it means you're being treated like a commodity. So when you act like a commodity, now you get treated like a commodity. And it doesn't matter if you provide exactly what they're looking for. Even if you're the perfect home, it doesn't matter because now you've been commoditized. You don't even get the chance to communicate your value. You're simply chasing them around and coming off as needy. Neediness is not attractive at all. All of this leads to the last problem. Now you're in the occupancy loop. Let me play out how this works and how the occupancy loop typically goes. Because you don't generate your own leads, you now accept leads and find residents from caring.com and a place for mom. Like I said, there's no problem with that. It's just when you're solely reliant on them. These leads may or may not belong in your community, right? But you don't have a choice at this point, so you have to accept them. They're the only ones coming to you, so you have to accept them. And this lack of strategy and inability to be selective causes so many more problems and much more pain, especially with your staff. You get more behavior problems, more challenging families to deal with, higher level of care is required, and of course, referral fees galore. And when you couple that with shorter than average resident stays, now you have a real issue. You can't pay your staff more and they get unhappy and leave. Every single community is dealing with staffing shortages. Not every single one. That's probably a gross overstatement. Most of the communities I talk to are struggling with staffing. So now you find yourself working in the business and actually becoming a staff member, taking shifts for caregiving, and wondering kind of what the hell are you doing? What'd you get yourself into, and how are you going to get yourself out of this? You can't expand and grow into more communities, and you're just trying to stay afloat. All because you have a marketing problem that needs to be fixed. Now listen, it doesn't have to be like this. It absolutely doesn't have to be like this. You can have an effective strategy that allows you to build the business and communities of your dreams. You can get traffic to your website despite how challenging the 800-pound gorillas attempt to make it, but it still can be done. You can provide so much value on your website and communicate to your visitors in such a way that they say, thank you. Thank you for marketing to me this way. Thank you for your website. Thank you for the information you've been providing us. And it is possible to have a waiting list. And it's possible to scale this model into new communities and fulfill the dreams that you started out with. So how do you pull this off? How do you compete in this space? Well, you need a combination of mindsets and skill sets to make that happen. So let's dive into the mindsets first. Okay, so guiding principles. When we talk about mindsets, we're really talking about guiding principles. And guiding principles are a broad philosophy that encompass your personal beliefs and values and guides an organization through its life in all circumstances, irrespective of changes in its goals, strategies, or type of work. These principles will guide your decision-making process moving forward. So let's dig in, okay? First one is you have to adopt an operating system, okay? You have to have a framework for how you go about marketing. It's the same thing as, if you're building a house, right? You wouldn't start with the kitchen and just say, okay, let's start with the kitchen. No, you wouldn't say that, right? You would build the frameworks out. You would build the blueprints out. So no operating system is kind of like building your home without blueprints. Now, I mentioned the resident value journey. This is our framework for digital marketing. This is their overarching framework. Identify, attract, convert, ascend. So identify means you're identifying exactly who you are. What's your disruptive value proposition? Who is your target market? In between in that Venn diagram, that's where your dream resident lies. So identifying exactly who you are, okay? Now you need to be able to attract those dream residents into your world. So you know the who, now you can talk about where are they? So now you know where to attract them. This is all about getting traffic. Now convert stage. How do you provide value to people who are ending up at your website to then exchange value for their contact information? We use something called the Smart Choices tool that I'm sure you've heard of, and you're going to hear more about later in the presentation. And then there's ascend. The sales cycle is really lengthy in assisted living right now. Really, really lengthy. So you have to overcome skepticism. You have to be relevant through the entire process. That means you have to nurture people through this process. And that's ultimately what's going to help you get to higher occupancy levels. And all of this stuff increases occupancy and move-ins. And this is just our framework. This is just one system, right? You don't have to have our framework. You don't have to use the resident value journey. But having a mindset of saying, listen, we are going to structure our marketing in a way where the only things that we're going to do are things that fit inside of our framework. Anything else is just a shiny light that's going to distract us from what we're ultimately trying to accomplish. Guiding principle number 2 is you have to become a marketer. Now, I get it. Like most of you are real estate investors, or some of you came from the care side. The reality is you have to become a marketer. You have to start thinking like a marketer. You have to start solving problems like a marketer. You have to take chances. You have to critically think like a marketer. You have to understand that in marketing, the goal is to provide as much value as possible, not talk about me. Okay, so when we go to so many communities' websites, it's me, 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 me. The reality is when you think like a marketer, you start thinking about your target market more. You get inside the conversation that they're having inside their brain. Then you can start to provide value. Then you can start to answer questions. Now you can be a trusted resource for them, and that's how you can guide them through the process. So you have to think like a marketer. Guiding principle number 3, who, not how. Okay, so marketing can be very overwhelming, right? There's paid media, Google ads, Facebook ads, there's email marketing, there's website optimization, there's website development, there's Google My Business, local list, there's so many different things. And then when you start getting into technology, it's even more overwhelming. And when you start thinking about how you're going to pull all of this off, this is when you hit the wall and you start procrastinating and you don't do anything. You get paralysis by analysis and you stop. The who, not the how. Who is your dream team? Who can help you accomplish what you want to accomplish? When you started to build your home, or when you started down this path, were you out there swinging a hammer? Were you out there laying sheetrock? Now, maybe some of you were, but for the most part, you got a general contractor, you maybe even got an architect, and you went through the process. You found your who. You didn't worry about how you were going to build a wall, or how you were going to build a home, or how you were going to transition the current home to a new home, to the new structure with more bedrooms and more bathrooms. That's not what you did. You learn the strategy, you understand exactly what you need to accomplish, and then you assemble your dream team. And that's how you move through this process. You have to have this mindset because there's too much for you to do. There's too much, it's too important, and there's too many skills, too many technologies, too many softwares, too many different things that are going to cause you to procrastinate. And when you procrastinate, you just simply don't get anything done. Guiding principle number 4, extreme ownership. So in his book, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink states that every problem you face in business is a leadership problem. Every single one is a leadership problem. So when you as a leader, the homeowner, the business owner, the investor, who most certainly has the most to lose, takes extreme ownership of the success or failure of your investment, your business, your community, your staff, then you take your power back and you can change the trajectory that you're on. Take your power back and don't rely on anyone else for that outcome that you desire. You need to be the master of your own fate and the captain of your soul. That's one of my favorite poems, Invictus. Okay? Extreme ownership of this challenge. Okay, so those are the guiding principles. Adopt an operating system. Become a marketer. Think like a marketer. Find your who. Don't be so focused on how you're going to actually pull this off. And then take extreme ownership and radical responsibility for making this happen and executing it so you can live the life that you want. So you can grow this business and this investment and get more homes and do what you really will ultimately want to do. Okay, so those are the mindsets that we need. So what about the skill sets, the path to higher occupancy? Okay, step number 1 is you have to identify your identity. Who do you serve? Why should a resident choose you over the community down the street? How will you help them achieve what they want? What separates you from everyone else? What's your disruptive value proposition? You know, there's a lot of talk right now in terms of the next generation that's coming through. And what are they more focused on? Well, they're not focused on care as much. What they're focused on is purpose and place. And so understanding your disruptive value proposition is what is going to separate you from everyone else. Because the worst thing you can say is we can help everyone. The reality is when you have that mentality and you have that as a strategy, now you're general. You have a general marketing message. When you're general, you're generic. And when you're generic, you're boring. And when you're boring, you're ignored. And when you're ignored, guess what you're doing right back in the occupancy loop? Okay, it's becoming more and more important, especially as the boomers are coming through, that you understand what your identity is. What is your disruptive value proposition? Who is your target market? What's your disruptive value proposition, and who becomes your dream resident? This is who you're marketing to. Now, I'm not saying you have to do this right away, but if you plan on being in this business for the next 3 to 5 years, these are things you need to be thinking of. There are tactics and strategies that can help you get your home full. The low-hanging fruit. But then there is also longevity. And if you truly want to grow and you truly want to create a community that is special, and that's one of the reasons why I love working with the RL Academy and the RL Networking Association and presenting at these conferences and interacting with all of you folks, is because you guys do want to do something different. It's been so refreshing, because that's why, I mean, that is why I got away from a lot of the big box communities, because it was very corporate, stuffy, no one really trying to make a difference. It was all about the dollars and cents. Yes, it's okay for you to be about dollars and cents too, but you can be conscious capitalists, and you can have a deep purpose and create a community that people really excel in and have an amazing remainder of life there, and maybe even extended life. So identify your identity. Who are you? Who do you serve? Why should someone come live at your home? Why should I put my mom in your home versus the home down the street versus the big box around the corner? Okay, once you have your identity, now you can start to leverage that information and execute on strategies and tactics from that data and intelligence that you have. First step here, step number 2 in this process, is now optimize your web presence. So optimizing your web presence is kind of a broad term, right? A lot of you think this is this is kind of the way your home looks, right? This is the way things look. And maybe you even have a picture on your website that looks like this. The problem is, to users and to the search engines, your home looks like this. Okay, Google doesn't want to send people to this home. This home, maybe it's really cool inside, but it's really damn creepy right out here. Okay, so they're not going to send you traffic. So if you're not optimized for search, if you don't have search engine optimization done, then that's what Google thinks your site looks like. Even if you paid $10,000 to have it built, doesn't matter. Okay, you have to optimize your website for search engines, and that is done in the code in the background. It's also a little bit about user experience as well. How much value do people get when they come to your website? What are you providing that's different from everyone else? How are you helping Sherpa them or guide them through this process? How are you going to get leads? Well, you become valuable. You become masters at creating an amazing user experience on your website. When you do that, now Google sends you even more traffic. Okay, so once that is done, the step number 3 is actually get found. And this comes down to traffic, right? We're talking about how do you build traffic. So there's a number of different ways you can build traffic. We're not going to go into each one of them. I'm going to talk about Google right now. Okay, you can do Facebook ads if you want. Good luck with that. Maybe retargeting would work well, but just targeting on Facebook is a really challenging strategy. Okay, paid media, these are the ads at the top of the search engine. So we did Assisted Living Phoenix. There you go. There's a place for mom right there. They're going to be up there virtually every single time. They pay tons and tons and tons of money to Google to make sure that they show up there and you don't. That's just the reality. Those are facts. Okay. Then there's organic rankings, and you see caring.com, you see assistedliving.org. Caring.com probably owns the majority of these websites, and then there's a few big box communities there as well. Okay, so organic rankings is another way that you can be found. And then there's the map pack, right? The 3-pack. This is by far the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to trying to be found, for you to compete on a more level playing field, is to compete in this space. Not only that, it's the best place to be found anyway. The map's there, the reviews are there, images are there. They can click the call right away. This is by far the best place for you to work so that you can ultimately increase traffic and also increase phone calls. Okay, what could you do with 93 phone calls to your community? Now, all of these calls are definitely not leads, but a large percentage of them are. And these are the things that we can do with Google My Business and local search. Okay, so this right here, local search, getting found in this map pack is by far the easiest way for you to start becoming found and increase traffic to your website, increase phone calls to wherever you're sending the phone calls. Okay, so now you've got some traffic. You've got people coming to your website. Now you need to enter into an exchange of value. Why should someone give you their contact information? If you are simply asking for someone to sign up for a newsletter, this is why you have a less than 1% conversion rate on your website. No one in their right mind wants to do this unless they are absolutely desperate and needy. And we already talked about that. Neediness is not attractive. Neediness is not cool. Okay, what value are you providing them? Remember, we identified your identity. So now we know exactly who your dream resident is. Now we can get inside the conversation that they're having inside of their own head, and we can start to answer questions for them. Here's a couple examples. Cost comparison tool. Over the last year, this is one of the biggest things that people were curious about, was how much does assisted living actually cost? Okay, so we wanted to be able to provide them apples to apples instead of just comparing their mortgage to what everything you get in assisted living. This goes through internet costs, home care, security, all the different things that you would need to pay for while staying at home. And it compared apples to apples in terms of what the actual real cost was. Smart Choices tool. What type of senior living care and community best fits my situation? We've been using this tool for almost 7 years. Why? Not because we're not creative enough to come up with a new one, because it works. Because most people going through this process have no idea the difference between independent living and assisted living and memory care, independent living with home health. They don't know. And the vast majority of websites don't do a very good job of explaining it. So tools like this are how you get people to say thank you. Thank you for providing this information. Okay? Simple questions. Okay, about dressing, about medications, about falls. Then we get lead information, contact information. Okay, 5.5 or 5.8% conversion rate, 12.5% conversion rate. Okay, step number 5. Now we've exchanged value. Now we have a lead. Now we need to follow up and close. Okay, you've done so much of the hard work. Like, you've really done a good job of gaining a lead, which is really hard. Now you need to follow up and close. So why do you need to follow up? Well, it takes an average of 5 follow-ups to close a sale. Yet, only 1% of people are going to follow up 5 times. That's craziness to me. So you have to follow up, and I'm going to show you some stats on why that's even more important. Here's some more sales statistics. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. But only 1% of people will go to the 5th. So what does that tell you? It means you need an automated system that can do it for you, or you have someone who's in that 1%. One of those two things need to happen. Okay, let's look at the benchmark report here from Inquire Solutions Annual Senior Housing Sales and Marketing Benchmarks. Okay, this shows the average sales cycle length for assisted living in 2020. Inquiry to tour, 53 days. Tour to move in 92 days for a total sales cycle of 145 days. That's almost 5 months. If people won't follow up with someone 5 times, imagine trying to keeping relevant for 5 months as someone goes through this process. But imagine if you do. How unique are you? How valuable are you if you're consistently communicating with someone and providing them value, not just like, hey, come to our community, hey, come to it. No, you're providing them value. You're helping them navigate through this challenging decision to move from their home to an RAL community or a personal care home or an adult family home. Okay, memory care too. Not much shift in the from 19 to 20, but it's still 106 days. It's 106 days it takes to make a decision. Now, we don't see that type of sales cycle length, but it's still out there. These are industry averages. Okay, then you've got COVID, right? And listen, COVID, it was devastating for the senior living industry in general. And what it did was it just simply accelerated the pace for you to get online. And this is what we're seeing. These are the conversations we're seeing after COVID. People are stuck in the waiting place. And if you're familiar with Dr. Seuss's book, The Waiting Place, it's the most awful place. It's the most awful place for you as a community when you just have a maybe. No, yes or no, no maybes. Maybes mean you're in the waiting place. I want this to be mom's decision. Okay, is mom capable right now of making good decisions for her? Is she handling the financial decisions too? Okay, we're gonna wait until something bad happens. What? These are what we're hearing from power of attorneys. We're gonna wait till something bad happens. Or I know something is wrong, but dad says he's fine. Okay, this is what we're dealing with the adult children not wanting to make decisions. And I get it. Like I'm not trying to diminish how challenging this is for them. At the same time, they have a responsibility, and we need to be able to nurture them through the process and educate them on how to have conversations, educate them on how to move the process forward. And again, overcoming this skepticism and help them, get over the hump. So now we start building trust. And the next thing you know, we start crunching and condensing down that sales cycle to much, much shorter. Okay, so when we follow up and close, we're following up with emails, text messages, content, value, and also phone calls. Okay, so the path to higher occupancy, step number 1 is identify your identity. Who are you? Who do you want to serve? Who's your dream resident? Why should they come there versus somewhere else? Optimize your web presence for not just search engines and not just users, but both of them alike. This is how you start to gain more traction. This is how you start to go to step number 3 and get found. When you optimize your web presence because you've properly identified your identity, this is how you get traffic and how you get found when someone is actively searching for what you do. They're actively looking for your home. Get in the game. Then once you get in the game, exchange value. Don't ask someone to subscribe to your newsletter. Don't ask someone just to schedule a tour right away. Yes, can it happen? Yes, but provide other ways to catch them too. Doesn't have to be the smart choice tool. Doesn't have to be cost comparison. Understand who your target market is. Understand the challenges that they're going through and solve their problems. Think like a marketer. Solve their problems. Understand what questions they have before they even get to your website and answer them. Give them what they want. Everybody else is doing this. For some reason, this industry is a little bit slower when it comes to taking up on these strategies. Think about your behavior online. Think about, the websites you enjoy going to. Okay, then follow up and close. Now, I was having an interesting conversation with someone yesterday, and they said, well, I don't like it when I get, followed up with so much. I'm like, listen, you don't have to be annoying. No, nowhere in here are we talking about, listen, bother the snot out of someone. No, we're saying follow up with people, give them value, and close down that sales cycle and condense the length of that sales cycle by providing value and nurturing the heck out of them. This is hard. It's a hard conversation for them to have with their parents. It's a hard decision to make to leave the family home. It's really challenging. So appreciate that and understand what they're going through and be there to help them. Okay, so a lot of information we just went over right there, right? We went over a ton of information. We went over kind of why you struggle. What are the problems? We went over the possibilities of what is actually possible if you can solve your marketing problem. We talked about the principles, the guiding principles that will help you, give you the proper mindset to make better decisions as you move forward. And then we gave you the overall strategy of how you actually can increase occupancy and how you can compete with anyone in this industry. Anyone, absolutely anyone, if you follow that path. Obviously, there's a ton that goes into that, right? Getting found is a lot more challenging than just saying, oh, I'm going to go set up my Google My Business account, right? And so what I'm going to show you right now is the culmination of the last 2 years of having a ton of success, having some failures along the way too. I'm not saying everything we've done has worked fantastically. There have been, areas of the country that have been really challenging, but we have always been honing in on the strategies that work. And we created a lot of our own problems as we created those strategies. We created problems for our communities because we overwhelmed them with leads, and they were managing leads on a spreadsheet or on a notebook. We created problems by having too many leads where people couldn't follow up with them as much as they needed to. So we would ask them how things are going. And they're like, well, I haven't followed up with that lead yet. And it's, those types of scenarios are good problems to have. So it forced us to say, okay, either we need to slow it down, we need to throttle back, or we need to level our game up. We need to create new solutions for our communities who need more help. They don't just need traffic. They don't just need conversions. They needed more. So what I'm about to share with you is called the Smart Choices Suite, and it's a combination of our services. It's the combination of services that's working right now. And it's working extremely well. Okay. Raelians is, as far as I know, I could be definitely wrong here, but I don't think so, is the first sales and marketing CRM specifically focused for you all. It's created for you. And listen, when I say CRM, sales and marketing automation system, there are tons of them out there, tons of them. They're only as powerful as what you have them do, as what you create inside of the actual system. So that's why this is different. This is created with you in mind, understanding that you're not going to go set up all these email sequences. You're not going to create all these landing pages. You're not going to understand how to do all this tech stuff. So we did it for you. So I'm going to share with you Raelians right now. And then once we get through with all this, we can answer some questions and go from there. Okay. So this would be your dashboard. This gives you a snapshot of exactly what's happening, your opportunities, the pipeline value, and we'll talk a little bit more about pipeline, your conversion rate, where your leads are coming from. So this gives you a quick snapshot of how things are going at your community. Now, this is valuable for you if you are in the community, or maybe you're afar and you need to understand what's happening. This allows you to get a snapshot and drill down on very specific data and intelligence on what's happening with the lead flow, what's happening with communication strategies, because all of it is organized for you. All of the emails go into one section. All of your text messages, all the phone calls that come in will be all in one section in an organized communications tab. So now, if you want to know what's happening with a specific lead or a specific resident, you can go directly to this, click on their name, and everything pops up for you. This is where you can communicate with people. You can send text messages, you can send emails, you can even call from inside of the dashboard. You can call the residents, you can call the leads, okay? We created a pipeline management system as well. So what does that mean, right? Well, you have leads that are at different stages of their decision-making process. Some of them are just leads. Some of them are scheduling tours. Some of them have completed tours. We created automated messages that happen at each stage of the pipeline. So all you have to do is drag and drop someone from one stage to the next. And then it starts triggering all new email communications, all new text messaging. And again, let me reiterate, this is not about pounding someone with just, hey, come for a tour, come for a tour, come for a tour. No, that's not what we do. We provide value, we provide guidance, we provide education through content and through just words of helping them and encouraging them. Now, some people on my team hate when I show this slide, but this is just one of the systems that we set up, okay? And yes, you can't see exactly what it is, but these are where leads come in for the cost calculator. Then they get these email sequences, then they go here. It is all set up inside of this system for you. So much so, all these marketing assets that we have for you, there's 9 landing pages, 3 acuity specific videos that helps explain what assisted living means, what memory care means, 28 email messages, 6 text messages, 3 ebooks that we send through emails, 13 pipeline stages, and 100+ automations that we've all set up for you. Plus, we are just getting started with this. So you get access to everything else we create. I can't stress to you guys enough the value that we're trying to provide in this solution. We want to remove all of these challenges from your plate and help you condense that sales cycle from 145 days down to 3 months, down to 2 months, because You understand what they're going through and you provide value and you guide them and nurture them through the process. Okay. So in addition to Raelians, when you get Raelians, you also get our conversion tools. I already went over these, the cost comparison tool. We brand these specifically for you. It doesn't look like, it doesn't go to my site or someone else's site. It goes on your website. It's branded to your colors. If you're not purple, this is Lavender Springs. You don't have to have purple. We go with your colors. Okay. Same with the Smart Choices tool. We brand it specifically. See your logo right there. Okay. We give this to you. We embed it directly on your website. Next thing we do is we want to help you build traffic, and we really focus on local SEO. We optimize your website for Google. Okay. We optimize your website for prospective residents and their family members to understand what they want. We help you create your frameworks to put them on your website so that you can communicate effectively how you help them achieve what they want. We optimize your Google My Business listing. So now we start increasing your phone calls. We create listings and citations, social and web 2.0 properties that may mean nothing to you, but this will. When you start getting 40, 50 phone calls a month, this will mean something to you. You won't really care what listings and citations or web 2.0 properties are, but you will care about this. Because when the phone starts ringing and you start getting a ton of traffic and the leads start coming in, now you can see that dream start becoming a big old light on it. You can start, it starts becoming a reality instead of this far-fetched bullshit dream that's never going to happen. Here's the other thing that we created. When we started creating this many phone calls, we didn't have anybody answer them. Nobody was answering the phones. We use a system that tracks the phone calls and nobody was answering. No answer, no answer, no answer, no answer. When someone calls you, got to pick up the phone. So we created the resident acquisition management team. And this is, we've answered over 7,000 phone calls thus far. And on the RAN team, the resident acquisition management team, we answer all your inbound phone calls that come to a specific number. If it goes to the community, no, your house, the manager needs to handle those, right? If the family members, we want you guys to sales and marketing phone calls. We answer the inbound sales and marketing phone calls. We make outbound phone calls for your community. Conversion tool leads, we follow up with them. We get them primed up. We get them hopefully scheduling an appointment or a tour. We follow up with you. If you have third-party referral leads from caring.com, we will follow up with them. The resident acquisition management team is not an answering service. It is a sales and marketing resident acquisition team for you. This allows you to focus on your home and not focus on all these other things that need to happen. The next thing you need is the Marketing Mastermind, okay? What happens on the mastermind calls? What's working now? It's starting in January 2022. This is to provide you all the information and education that you need. So you get access to all the recordings and additional trainings. A lot of the trainings from the REL Marketing Secrets Masterclass that I've redone, a lot of it, are all going to be provided in this too. You have hot seat opportunities, so you can sit and have a conversation with me or whoever's on the call, and we can work through some of your challenges. And for those of you who just like to be wallflowers, you can sit and listen and get tons of value from this. We talk tours, tactics, disruptive value proposition, whatever you guys want. We'll have a lesson, and then we'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. What's working now, okay? So what are you going to get? Raelians CRM, cost comparison tool, Smart Choices tool, Smart Choices traffic, the RAM team, and the REL Secrets Mastermind, okay? So all of these things make up the Smart Choices suite. Now, we have 3 different options for the Smart Choices suite. So listen, if you're still listening to me right now, at a certain level, we've connected. Maybe some of the problems that I discussed you're experiencing. Maybe you're just getting started and you don't want to experience those. We have tried to create these packages that are available for virtually everyone. My team thinks I'm bananas for doing this too, and I'm not lying when I say that. We created 3 different levels. The pro level is Raelians, so all of the assets that we talked about, all the conversion tools, you still get access to the mastermind. That's only $297 a month. That's it. $297 a month for all of that value. If you want us to work on traffic, it goes to $9.97 a month. If you want the call center, which you have to apply for because we're only accepting 10 because that's all we can truly handle right now, we are also being very, very selective with the VIP service here. There's an application process. You got to have a conversation with me. We got to see if we're a good fit for each other. If you don't have very many phone calls, you don't need the RAM team right now. Maybe Platinum is perfect for you. Maybe you don't need any of it. You just need Raelians and you just want the conversion tools because you have traffic. We got this price as far down as possible. Here are what a couple of our trusted clients say. You know, Kendall Williamson at Well Homed, John Murphy at Colonial Oaks Senior Living, Tommy and Jana Gillis at Lavender Springs. Okay. You can read about this on the page that you go to. On that page, it's just bit.ly/RALNA webinar 1 test. If you could put that in the chat, please, I would appreciate it. And then listen, I had two choices here. First option, I could raise the price to keep it in alignment with the value that we're providing you guys. And yes, it would preclude some of you from joining this. Or second option, I could drop the price to help as many communities as possible. My mission in this industry is to help you all defeat the bigger communities. And the only way you can do that, and the only way I can accomplish my mission, is by you getting in the marketing game and actually getting in the game, taking extreme ownership on what you need to do to provide the value you need to provide to compete at the level you need to compete. So now you have two choices, right? You can do nothing. You can take all this information, take no action, and stay stuck, okay? Or you can take extreme ownership and you can take massive action and you can move the process forward for yourself in one of these different packages that we set up here for you. The Pro, again, is Raelians conversion tools in the mastermind, less than $300 a month. Platinum is adding on traffic on top of that. You still get the mastermind, still get Raelians and the conversion tools. The VIP is all of those things plus the RAM call center management team. Again, you have to apply for the RAM team. So, all right, any questions? Let's open it up, Tess.
All right, so we've got a couple really great questions coming in here. The first one is, how often is this information refreshed? I believe this came in when you were introducing Raelians.
Yeah.
So how often is this information refreshed?
Yeah, great question. So all the time. I mean, we're always evolving and making changes to the copy. So if you think about it, over the copy inside of the landing pages, inside of the text messages, inside of the email sequences, if you think about the last year and a half, the challenges have been different, right? COVID created all kinds of different challenges. And now with vaccines, whatever, we're starting to get to the tail end of that, I hope anyway. And so the messaging starts to change. Now it's about getting people to take action, right? Before it was about, hey, you're still going to be safe. Their mom is not going to be isolated and left alone in a room. Now it's about, how do we help people actually make a decision, right? And how are things still handling COVID and such? So the answer is, and I love this question because we want to keep everything fresh. This is not, hey, we set it and forget it for the next 3 years. Otherwise, we'd be irrelevant at that point.
Awesome. Next great question is, how long does it take to get this up and running? What is the setup timetable?
Depends on which package you have, but within 2 weeks, we have you up and running.
Awesome. Is there a long-term commitment?
No, there is not a long-term commitment. We do have an agreement, but you can get out of the agreement. The only commitment is if you want to do the VIP with the call center, you have to commit for at least 6 months.
Gotcha. Next question is, are there any additional charges for Raelians?
No. So we don't charge you for the amount of contacts you have. We don't charge you for text messaging. We don't charge you for emails. At least right now we don't. So we don't charge you up for any of those things.
And the last question we have right now, and feel free to type some more up if anybody has more, what if we have multiple communities?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you have multiple communities, we give you a discount on pricing for the additional communities. When we're talking about traffic, there's still a ton of work. If you have two separate communities that are 5 miles apart, there's still the same amount of work. We give you a discount on additional communities. So you need to schedule some time with me, and we'll get that figured out. It really depends on how many communities you have, and we'll work something out with you.
All right, fantastic. Well, I think that's all of the questions we have now. If there's anything else anybody wants to ask, go ahead and type it in the question box below. And Scott, if you have anything else you want to add to this incredible presentation, please do.
I don't have anything else to add, you guys. Just listen, go to bit.ly RALNA webinar 1, bit.ly/Raelna webinar 1. I really appreciate you guys being here and how many people stayed through the end of the presentation. Our mission here is to provide you as much value and help you compete at a massive level. So I look forward to working with you, and thanks a lot for attending.
Awesome. Yes, the link is in the chat box. So if anybody's interested, please go ahead and click there. And thank you so much for being here, everybody. And thank you so much, Scott.
All right. Thank you, Tess. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.